citations, the Toastmasters' highest award. Karen has served in several district offices, including Public Relations Office and District Treasurer. Frank has received a Lieutenant Governor education and training as a District Governor. They met at a Toastmasters meeting in 1991. Wow. And have been friends pretty much the whole time. That's more than friends. Both have multiple DTMs and have mentored a Toastmasters Gavel Club at the Jessup Correctional Facility for Women for 3 years and at the Men's Prison Facility for 12 years. They were honored as Volunteers of the Year in 2007. Wow. Karen is a professional trainer currently teaching public speaking and presentation skills at Johns Hopkins University. Frank retired as a field engineer from Westinghouse, Northrop Grumman after 31 years. Both love to travel. This puts me to shame. Both love to travel and have visited all 50 states and their capitals and have visited 97 countries.
Whoa.
Since 2001.
Yeah.
Her favorite country, Karen's favorite country, is Italy and Frank's is China. Frank says his marriage has lasted for 20 years because they took 2 long vacations per year. She goes in the summer and he goes in the winter. I'd like you to join me in welcoming Frank and Karen to the stage.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Before I mention pathways, I want to say something to our speaker. Karen and I are fortunate to be very good friends with the international president who lives in Sri Lanka. We stayed in his home one time, and he calls me periodically. And just a couple days ago, he called me and said he was on his way to West Africa.
West Africa, yes.
To make sure they get more clubs there.
Yes.
He's on the road a lot. Okay, pathways. How many people already know everything they need to know about pathways? Let's see those hands. That's good. We're in the right location. Pathways is a brand new program started for us on November the 1st last year. It started maybe 18 months prior, but they're doing what they call a rollout. Every district has about 100 clubs, and a region has about 1,000 clubs. So they're doing region by region. So every month or every couple of weeks, they roll out a region of 1,000 clubs. We were rolled out November 1st. It's going to end, the current program will end June 30th, 2020. So we'll mention that later. Maybe 6 months ago, we were asked to be ambassadors, and without thinking about it, we said yes. And then we said, what do you think that means? And what is this pathways they're talking about? So I did have a pathways training by a non-professional, I'll say. And when I left the training, I knew less than when I entered the training. I don't know how that's possible, but it's possible. So I said, look, if we're going to have to train this, we should maybe try to learn something. So what we did, we developed this program, and we think Toastmasters should really do training in 2 separate ways. One is what we're going to do tonight. That's before you ever log into Pathways. You should know what Pathways is, what the terms are. So you have an idea. When you see the terms online, you'll say, I know what that is. I know how they all fit together. And the second part should be what happens once you log into Toastmasters. We're going to cover the first part and maybe a little bit about the second part. So tonight we're breaking our part into 3 parts. I told you there's a lot of new terminology you need to know. Karen's going to explain all the new terms. Then I'm going to come back and show you how all those terms tie together. I should let you know you heard I was an engineer, so I like to approach things logically. At least I think they're logical from my standpoint. So I thought, look, there's got to be a way to show the Pathways program like in a graphical way. I love charts, I love graphs, I love anything that is represented kind of pictorially. So we have a handout that will show you how everything fits together in the Pathways program. And then we'll have a little Q&A. The whole thing, whose time it is? 20, 25, 30 for the lights. So let's have Karen talk about the terms.
Thanks, Frank. I get the easy part. I'm going to teach you 8 words that are going to be really important when you start your Pathways journey. 4 that are going to help you with the online experience, and 4 that are really going to help you with Frank's handout. Pathways is the new educational program from International, and we're really excited about it because it's really the approach will be very individualized. In the past, we've all worked from the same manual, same advanced manuals, and gone through the same track. With pathways, every person in this club will be able to pick an individual path that they personally think will best help them, either for Lisa who's starting a business, or for Michelle who's already have a business. You'll find paths that will really help you with your career or in your personal life. So these are the words I'm going to ask you to learn. 4 are going to be about your online experience, and 4 are going to help you with Frank's handout. First word I want you to learn is assessment. Shout it back to me.
Assessment.
And remember, we're not in a church. Oh yeah, we are in a church. But we're going to shout it out, assessment. The assessment is an online tool that you'll take. It's maybe about 15 to 20 questions that will ask you sort of objective questions that you answer. What do you think about this? And it'll give you several choices. And at the end, it will recommend 3 paths. My suggestion to you is to be familiar with the 10 paths, so at the end of the assessment, you'll be able to make a decision that's best for you. If by any chance you select a path and think, oh, why did I do that? You have 30 days to reverse that decision. So what's the first term we learned?
Assessment.
There is another part of assessment that our new member probably already has experienced, is before and after you give a speech, you now do a short assessment before you give the speech and a short assessment after you give the speech. Assessment. Next word I want you to learn is navigator. Shout it out to me.
Navigator.
There's a 22-page PDF file that I'm going to recommend you all download. It has terminology in it. It gives you a lot of explanation. That's the navigator that you can PDF file. There's also a navigator that once you select your path, you will be able to go and navigate through your path using the online navigator. So that's navigator. Next word is Basecamp. Shout it out to me. Basecamp. Basecamp is so cool. It's a way that you now can have all your speeches are now going to be recorded and retained in Basecamp. Your evaluations will be recorded and retained in Basecamp. You now can Lisa's just starting this new business, and she's inspired us to step out of our box. At the end of this meeting, you could, through Basecamp, send Lisa a little badge saying you were inspirational to us today. You can send Basecamp feedback. Instead of just getting one evaluator, you can ask everybody in the room to give you an evaluation, and again, have it retained and remain in your Basecamp. Now, when I say the next term, Basecamp managers, yell it out to me.
Basecamp manager.
That is Chris, right? We will do this. Hail Basecamp manager. Can you do it with me? Hail Basecamp manager. Because your Basecamp manager is really important in your experience in pathways. Under the new system, when you go, and I'll explain this momentarily about levels, but when you go from level 1 to level 2, it's, help me out, Basecamp manager that will go to his on his Basecamp manager site and give you a check mark and say you can go to the next level. It's the person that approves all your level changes is your Basecamp manager. So what do you do when you say Chris from now on? Hail Basecamp manager. Now the next 4 words, so they're going to help you with your online experience. Next up, I'm going to teach you 4 words that are going to help you with Frank's handout. First is 10 paths. Shout it out to me.
10 paths.
International has started with 10 paths, but the intention is to expand them as they see necessary or take some away as they see not necessary. So you'll see this be a little more fluent in the future, and each path has its own little icon. 10 paths. Next up is 5 core competencies.
5 core competencies.
This will not surprise you for my veteran members that since we birthed ourselves from a public speaking organization, that one of the core competencies is public speaking. And surprise, each path has that as one of its core competencies. But when you're selecting your paths, look at the 5 core competencies. They're not in every path. And pick the one that's most important to you. Next up, levels. Shout it out for me. Levels. Say it like that too. Levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 is consistent. Every path has 5 levels. Not all levels are the same except for level 1. Level 1 is consistent through all 10 paths. But when you get into level 2, slightly different. When we get into level 3, that's where it really gets tailored to your selection. Levels. And last but not least is projects. Shout it out.
Projects.
There's 59 projects, and I probably have it somewhere. Here it is. You will have project checklist. For each project, you'll have a project work list, worksheet, project checklist, and then you'll have a project evaluation. They're very different from our current evaluations. So I would suggest if you're going into Pathways, when you come into your club, you give your evaluation form to your evaluator. I did a Pathways presentation, had a veteran member evaluate me, gave him the sheet right before the meeting, and his comment to me was, with it being so dramatically different, I needed more time with that evaluation form. So every project, there are 59, you'll have all the necessary information you want about that project online. So let's review. You've learned 4 terms to help you online. Do you remember what they were? Help me out. Assessment, navigator, Basecamp, Basecamp manager, Hail Basecamp manager. And you've learned 4 terms that are going to help you with Frank's handout. You remember what they are? 10 paths, 5 core competencies, 5 levels, and 59 projects. Now, when I say Frank actually put together this handout, I want you to know that when we were appointed to be ambassadors, Frank took it so serious that our whole holiday at Christmas, he spent 52 hours looking at every video and reading every piece of information he could find about Pathways. So I say this to Toastmasters International, I think they owe me a vacation. And with that, I'm going to start handing out Frank's handout, and please help me welcome my favorite Toastmaster, Frank Storey.
Before we look at the handout, I want to say 2 things. In the future, when you're on Pathways, there are no manuals. The CC manual, CL manual, all that's going away. June 30th, 2020. Those manuals disappear. So if you want, when you come to a meeting, you'll be prepared. You go online, you print out the forms you need for that speech. We'll talk about that later. So just keep that in mind. Everybody has one of these, or should have one of these. This is the Pathways handout. It's when I first thought about doing this, I said, well, I can just maybe do like 1 sheet of paper to explain, like some kind of flow chart or something, to explain all the Pathways. Then I realized it wouldn't fit on 1 sheet, so I said, let's just do 1 big sheet. Then that didn't work, so I did 4 big sheets, plus an insert, plus a website. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So take this front cover. You can read the front and back by yourself when you have time. Tonight, if you're having trouble falling asleep, break this out, read the front and back. Also on the back, there's a little business card. I gave most of you business cards. If you want another, if you want one and you came in later, let me know. But that has our email address, our phone number, and the website address. So look at that because it's weird. When I did the website, I never intended for it to go public. I just did it for my own edification, let's say. I thought, if I can understand enough to put it down on paper on a website, then that means I could probably explain it to somebody. Then it kept growing. I originally just going to say like 5 pages, maybe 10 pages. I think it's 50 or 60 or more. Not that you have to read it all, it's just a resource for you. And then I parked it on Karen's home website because I didn't want to buy a website since I was just playing around with it. I never intended it to go live. Then I sent it to a few friends. They sent it to other friends. I have gotten responses from about 20 countries, including Russia, Japan, China, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Europe, St. Lucia, wherever that is, and other places. So it's too late to change it. And you have to type it just the way it is. Sorry. Okay, look at the inside. Karen gave you 3 of these terms. Look at the very top. The title is called Paths, Core Competencies, and Levels. So we're going to talk about those, and I'm going to tie them together for you. Right below the title, it has a sentence and it's with some circles in it. One says public speaking, 2 is strategic leadership. Those are the 5 core competencies. Everybody see that right below the title? Okay? Now, right below that are the 10 paths. 5 on this side, 5 on this side. She showed you the icons briefly. Every path has its own icon. So you'll be seeing this in the future on the website. If you get certificates, probably going to have badges, buttons, lapel pins, whatever, that designated you did this path. It's a good opportunity to make money. I'm sure they'll do it. They don't have it now, but I'm sure they'll do it. So you'll see these paths, these icons. So it shows you the icon, and then it has a brief description right next to it of what that means if you're choosing that path. And then they're followed by 3 or 4 circles, which refer to the core competencies above. So that means if you choose this path, dynamic leadership, the core competencies you're learning are 1, 2, 3, and 5. In that order. That's the order in which they are the strongest. The strongest part of that path is public speaking. Second is what is interpersonal communication, and so on. You understand that? These are not things you get credit for. They don't check off a box. You don't have the base camp manager give you credit anything. These are just things you'll learn. Maybe you don't even know you're learning them while you go through any path. And that tells you which of these are involved. Right below are the 5 levels Karen showed you on the screen with a little bit more detail. We're not going to go into a lot of detail, but those are the 5 levels. First, mastering fundamentals. You would think that's first, learning the basics. And then learning your style, increasing knowledge, building skills, demonstrating expertise. As Karen mentioned, you can't not, unlike the current system where you can have the manual, and if you are on speech 7, and then you think, I'd rather do speech 9 next, you can do that. Here, you have to go level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. You cannot move from level to level until you finish the previous level, because he won't approve it.
That's right.
He might, I know he can't. It's all done by the computer. So if you want to move from one level to the next, finish the level. And then if you go online, you'll see a little place where when you do it, it checks it off until it has a little bar, goes across 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%, you're done. Then he approves it, they open the next level. Okay, so that's 3 of the terms. Paths, core competencies, and levels. So let's take out the big center section.
What you need, Ben?
The big center section is more detail on the paths. So look at the top. One says part 1 and one says part 2. So look at part 1. Right underneath it has a sentence with an asterisk in front. It says anything with an asterisk is a required project. Okay, so let's look at 1. So the paths go down like this. This is dynamic leadership and so on like this. So let's pick dynamic leadership as pretend that's the one you chose. They all work the same. First of all, if you were to investigate across this way, you'll see that path 1 is identical for everybody. I have numbered the projects you have to do. So everyone has 19 and 16 and 49. And they all have asterisks, so that's required. If you already have your CC, or whatever level you're at, you have to start at the icebreaker again, because it's a little different. You do a pre-assessment, do the icebreaker, post-assessment.
I'm sorry, what do you mean 19, 16, and 49?
That's the numbers. You see the numbers on there?
Yeah, but you haven't shown them the numbers yet.
Oh, it's going to refer to this table in a minute. See this table
Okay.
here?
Okay.
They're alphabetically here, so I'll explain it. So every path requires 3, on level 1, 3 projects. Okay. First of all, to finish a path, there's 14 total projects you have to do. 14. 10 are required, 4 are electives, which are required. Okay, so let's look at that. 10 required. Okay? Level 1, all 3 projects have an asterisk. That means they're required. That's 3 of the 10 I said. Level 2 shows you 3 projects, all with asterisks. Required. That's 6. Level 3 says 1, negotiate the best outcome. That's 7. Level 4 says manage change. That's 8. Level 5 has lead in any situation, and reflect, and reflect. 9 and 10. So that's the 10 required projects just for that path. If you go to the next path over it, they're different. It's kind of like you're majoring in dynamic leadership, or you're majoring in effective coaching, or you're majoring in visionary communication. So when you get to level 3, you start getting into what I would call your core
Major.
courses, your major. That's just for that path. Okay, I said there's 14 projects, 10 required, 4 elective. So let's look at the electives. There's none in level 1, none in level 2, level 3 shows you a bunch of, it says level 3 electives. Choose any 2. I told you there was 4. So level 3 has 2. Level 3 says choose 1, that's 3. Level 5 says choose 1, that's 4. 10 required, 4 elective, 14 total that are chosen from the 59 projects. That's true for, so that logic goes for every path, on the front and the back. So, Karen told you could go on, do the assessment, and pick the path, it'll pick the path for you. We both did it and picked paths we did not like. She changed hers pretty quickly. I took a month. I've had it 30 days, so I called on the 30th day, and they canceled it for me. If you wait more than 30 days, it still stays on your record. You're not being charged, but you have to pay for the next one. You have to pay for the next one anyway. So you'll be getting one free that you're not going to use if you choose the wrong one and you wait 30 days. If you're in 2 different clubs and you were a member prior to November 1st, you may choose 2 paths, one for each club for free. That's it. From then on, you pay $25, I think it is. You say, why would I have to pay for something that's online? That I don't know, but as you are now, when you get out of the basic manual into the advanced manuals, you have to pay for them. They're about $8 each. You have to choose 2. That's $16. Plus you have to pay postage, $7 or $8, $25. That's, I guess, probably how they round up with it. I don't know. Okay, let's look at this. Now, the website. Why is the website important? You go to the website, the home page has a little welcome, but at the top it has about 5 little icons.
I didn't get one of those inserts.
Oh,
I'm coming.
okay.
Thank you.
The home page of the website of the tutorial has 5 little icons, one of which is a picture of this handout, very tiny, about that big. So if you want to know you have the latest version, you go to my website, click on that little icon of this, it goes to the page, and it tells you what date they were last updated, and you can download it. It also has a little question mark, which refers to, do you have a question? You click on that. So we've done about 12 or 13 of these trainings, and we always get questions. We go home the next day, I call TI, I get them to send me the official answers, I post them on the website. So if you want to know, if you have questions, you may go there first. Look at the little question mark on the home page. It also has a little road map, a green background with a little winding road through it. That's for the site map. On the site map of my website are 300, going to be more, 380 terms. I'm adding some today. Now, you're not going to care about all of these terms, but if you have a term you don't understand, it's most likely there. Now, you say, well, they're probably all on the TI website. No, they're not. Surprisingly, none of these 59 projects can you search in the Pathways search window and find. None of the 10 path names show up on the TI website. The word levels, core competencies, paths, projects do not show up. Why? They told me they just forgot about it. The webmaster forgot.
You mean if you're doing a search?
Yeah, if you do a search on the TI website, they won't show up. So what I would recommend is when you get ready to go on Pathways, open my website simultaneously with the TI website. So if you see a term, or you want to find a term, or you want to find something, the 380 things listed there you will find, because I told you, I asked them to provide me everything. It's probably on the website somewhere, they just haven't linked to it, because they send me the information. Okay, this page here, you want to know about a project, you go to this page on the website. It also has on the front page alphabetical listing. When you go to the home page, it's click alphabetical listing, you get this page. Every one of these are clickable links.
On your website
On my
or the
website,
TI?
not on the TI
yours,
website.
okay.
They click and they open up into at least a full-page explanation of everything here. It tells you what the purpose is, it tells you the time, just like in your manual. It tells you everything you need to know, and you can print out the form like this. So if you don't get the path you like when you do the assessment, we call it backing in. You can go to this chart, and look at the things, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do this. And say, oh, that's that path. Or if you find a few things you don't want to do, then you don't want to do that path. I should use this as an example, but there's one called a high performance leadership, which right now every DTM has to do. It's a very long months and months and months. There are some of these that don't have HPLs, high performance leadership. And that's how I chose my path. I've done several. I didn't want to do another one. So I looked down here and said, which one does not have an HPL? And I chose that path. High performance leadership. You pick a project, you have a guidance committee and a working committee. You meet weeks and weeks, over a period of weeks. You do the project, you report on it. It can be a work project, a Toastmaster project.
If you want to become a distinguished
Yeah.
Toastmaster.
Okay, one last thing. What was the last card you showed me?
It was green.
I wasn't looking. Okay, so to become a distinguished Toastmaster, if you're new to Toastmasters, that's the highest leadership educational award you can earn. What it takes, let's compare. Let's compare how it is now. You have to do a competent communicator manual, 10 projects. Advanced communicator bronze manual, 10 projects. Advanced communicator silver manual, 10 projects. Advanced communicator gold manual, 10 projects, 40 projects. Plus the competent leader, which is 10 projects, but there are really 21 things you have to check off. So that makes 61 things. Advanced leader bronze, 2 modules, which are speeches, that's 63. Advanced leader silver, 2 more modules, 65. And high performance leadership, at least 2 speeches, 67 things. Plus a year of club service, a year of district service, and a couple other things that are on the back of this program. That's the current system, 67 speaking parts. This system, to become a distinguished Toastmaster, you must do 2 paths, any 2 paths. So 14 here is 28. Now that can actually be a little bit more because some projects require a couple of steps, but let's just say 28 things total. So that's, in a way, it's a downside as far as things to do.
And you don't have to do a high performance?
Not if you don't choose that. Okay. All right, any questions? Did I miss something?
No, I don't think so. You're moving really fast today. I do want to say this, Sherry just finished her HPL. I saw her final
Right.
speech for that in phase 2. So if you have questions about that project, you can ask Sherry. She just completed hers, and it's a great project.
It is a lot of fun. I just didn't want to do it for the 4th
Right.
time or something.
Questions about pathways?
I know you don't all understand that.
Yes, sir. Our new member.
Just a quick question. As you go through part 2, I'm assuming all of these level 1 and 2 should all have asterisks next to them? Is that just a printing issue?
Yeah, I
Probably.
changed that on the website. You're right. Someone
I'm an engineer too, so
I- I love my
details.
engineers. And Frank mentioned, because unfortunately, we printed 100 of these.
Right.
And then we found the
Yeah,
mistakes.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's
You gotta use what
updated
you
on the
have.
website.
Right.
So go there, and every time we find something out, we.
It doesn't offend me to point out the mistakes, because I want to be near perfect.
No, I just want to be, so it's consistent, there's 14 for each one.
Yes,
Okay.
there is
Yes, you're
14
right.
for each one,
Thank
that's
you.
correct.
I guess another question I have is, one of these pathways, what's the timeline for it? I mean, if somebody's real ambitious, can they get through it in a shorter period of time, or?
Well, there's 67, at least 67 meetings you would have to go to.
He's talking about the new path. It depends how fast you can go.
No, exactly, so it's kind of self-imposed time?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But so is our current program. Our
Yeah.
current program has always been whatever you, at your own speed, so is
Okay.
Pathways.
And here's a thing that tells you what what you have to do to be a distinguished Toastmaster, is also a little graphic here. What all the things I talked about today, plus the year of leadership in both club and district, plus serve as a club mentor or coach, plus conduct a youth leadership speechcraft or sponsor a new club.
Is that
That's the same as it is right now.
same as it is? Okay.
And if you want to earn, anybody close to earning their Distinguished Toastmaster under this current
Is
program?
anybody close to what DTM?
No.
Sherry.
Okay, then you have
So
to
you know
finish
what you
by
need to do.
June.
And Alpha, okay.
And the biggest obstacle is district leadership, because it always starts July 1, ends June 30th. So you only have 2 more chances before this program expires. This June 30th, you sign up before then, and the following.
And
Then
Sherry and I
it
already have a
expires.
plan for that, right,
Okay.
Sherry?
That's right.
We're conspiring, we have a plan. Other questions? I just want to comment on what this gentleman, I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm a level ahead of Frank and we start at the same time. So you can go at your own your own speed, and some of us go a little faster than others.
I was working on the handout. So.
I know. How you have a question?
Two questions. The first question is, how easy is it to work the traditional and pathways simultaneously?
What was it?
How easy is it to work the traditional and pathways side by side? Can you, and how, I mean, I
You
know
can,
because
absolutely.
others are doing it, but how easy is that to do?
For me, Alka, I finished my CC and then I started Pathways because I wanted to do one, not both. But Frank actually is doing both currently. I think it's a personal preference. That's why he's not going through the pass as fast as I am, by the way.
And my second question, which is slightly related, is if saying of the traditional pathways, I'm due to do a HLP in June, can I take on board my committee members who are on pathways and don't need to have the HLP credit?
Your committee
Absolutely.
member can be anybody. They don't even have to be Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let's say you had a work project. You may want some of your employees to be on your committee. Your boss might be on your committee. We had someone tell us that he's using Pathways as his way for a merit raise. He shared it with his supervisor and said, I'm gonna complete all of these things. He looked at him and said, okay, if you do that, I'll give you a
A raise.
promotion and a raise.
We have time for maybe one more question? Yes, Chris?
I just want
Wait a second. Hail.
just want to confirm basically the transition from the traditional to the Pathways program, and that the speeches and the meeting roles are basically the same. So if you want to do a meeting role here, you're still going to get credit under Pathways. It just might be in a different category than it would be in a traditional program.
Correct. Actually, it's more of your own accounting of it. So if you're Toastmaster of the day, there is a spot where you put that you were Toastmaster of the day, and you can track what roles that you've kept. And you're right, some of the projects will, like active listening, surprise, surprise, has to do with evaluations. So some of it you'll see will easily go into your role.
Let's talk about, should you switch over to Pathways right now? Depends on where you are and your VPE. If you're halfway done, I would say finish what you're doing. It's gonna be up to you. There's never gonna be designations like we have now. We have about 7 or 8 designations. Competent communicator, advanced communicator, all those levels, and competent leader and all those. Those all disappear June 30th, 2020. You'll only be distinguished Toastmaster, or they've told us they're going to call you, she's a visionary communicator. When you finish, you'll be visionary communicator proficient. But you won't have, she'll be a VCP. Well, they haven't decided they're gonna have badges, but I'm sure they will, so, because when you walk around, you wanna know what path did you do, VCP. It's all gonna change, so if you wanna become a competent communicator, or an advanced bronze, advanced silver, advanced gold, now's your chance. There's no other chance after 2020, it's lost forever.
The last thing Frank and I want to ask you to do is we've got some feedback comment sheets. If you think about during the meeting, questions that you didn't get answered, please write them down. Frank is really diligent. In fact, sometimes he does it the same night. We'll put them online and get an answer to those questions. So I'll be coming around with that, and I want to thank Elkin and Sherry for inviting us in, and Chris.
That was great, thank you.